Want to learn what it really takes to run a stress-free and profitable launch to the tune of, $5 million? Yeah, me too. Then you are definitely going to want to stick around for my interview with membership.io co-founder and launch expert Stu McLaren. Stu has been launching, growing, and scaling 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses since 2008. In this interview, he's going to share the 4 must-haves you need for running a successful and profitable product launch online. And you will not believe how simple it is. Keep watching. Hey Posse, what's up? It's Alex, and I am so freaking excited to bring you another interview with one of the industry-leading speakers who will be taking the stage at my upcoming event, Posse Fest Live. It's happening very soon in October. You can learn more about that in the description box below and grab your ticket before they sell out. But first, you have to listen to this interview with my friend, Stu McLaren. I first met Stu at a marketing event last year. Yes, I'm telling you, you have to go to events to meet amazing people. And ever since then, I have been soaking up his wisdom, sometimes while kayaking. This was actually us in Austin last week. He is a launch genius, and I have learned so much from him in such a short period of time. If you don't already know Stu, in 2008, he co-founded the world's leading membership platform for WordPress, Wishlist Member. Have you heard of it? And ever since then, he has helped tens of thousands of authors, speakers, coaches, and consultants grow 6, 7, and even 8-figure business memberships. Having worked with so many businesses over the years in so many different niches, he has discovered the subtle nuances that make a really big difference when you are running a launch. And this is so important, it has nothing to do with the size of your audience. As you will hear him say in this interview, you can have a wildly successful launch with an audience as small as 200. You will also hear Stu break down the most common mistakes that business owners make when planning their launches, and I have to tell you, I have definitely been guilty of these a time or two. He'll also share the #1 most important thing to do first in your launch, what kills your launch before you even get started, and the 4 super simple things that you can do to really improve your chances of success. Now, if you love interviews like this and want to hear more about what other business owners are doing behind the scenes, then make sure to subscribe below and leave a comment below to share the #1 takeaway you got from this video. Now, here's my chat with Stu McLaren. Stu, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so excited you're here.
Me too. And we both got the memo. Coordinating outfits.
I know, right? I was like, of course you're wearing pink today. I wasn't going to, but everyone knows I love a good hot pink moment. And I'm so excited to be talking to you because what a lot of people don't know, I mean, my mastermind members have met you and have seen your genius in action. But what a lot of people might not know watching this is I literally throw my money at Stu because he's that smart. I am in his impact mastermind and everything he does is so beautifully simple and so powerful. And Stu, I wanted to say that to you because I think I am so guilty of overcomplicating things in my business. And when I joined Impact, I was like blown away by how much money people in your mastermind were making with really simple business models. And so first of all, thank you for that. I've learned so much from you and everyone in the mastermind as well. And you're just such a brilliant mind when it comes to all things marketing and launches. And we're going to talk all about that in this interview. But I always like to start by like rewinding a little bit. Before you were Stu McLaren, you know, the incredible marketing mind and founder of membership.io that you are today, what were you doing before? Who were you before you were an entrepreneur?
Well, it's interesting. Hearing you say that, I actually don't have a time when I wasn't an entrepreneur, believe it or not. So like I went to university for business and they were training us to go right in the corporate world. I had signed on the dotted line to go work for a big company up here in Canada called Maple Leaf Foods. You know, my parents were ecstatic. I was in their executive management program. I was great pay, company car, benefits, all the thing.
Yeah.
And then legit, before I was to begin, epiphany moment that this was not the life I was meant to lead. And so I took a hard left turn, and I basically, quit the job before I started. And I remember when I was telling my parents this, I was still living at home with them. And my mom, I told her in the car, and she's like, let's just wait until we get back and let's discuss this with your father. And so I was like, oh man. So I get home and my dad says to me, okay, Stu, well, what are you going to do? And I don't know if anybody watching has ever felt that moment where you're so clear in like the direction you want to go, and then someone asks you a question and instantly you're like full of doubt and confusion. And I was like, I don't know. And, in that moment, I could see my dad like having all different kinds of thoughts. In one hand, I knew he wanted, to support me, like as a good father, is encouraging and so forth. But at the other side, I could also see this fear, because in our family, like we grew up a blue collar, working family. Like both my parents worked 2 full-time jobs. Like money wasn't like in abundance in our family. And I could see this fear, like he just didn't want me to experience that. But, to their credit, my dad basically said like, okay, listen, your mom and I talked about this. You can live in our basement rent free for a year and try to build whatever you want to build. But if at that point, like it's not like off the ground, then your mom and I are going to encourage you to go get a corporate job. And so my first business was, I was a speaker. I didn't know what this meant, but I knew I had learned a bunch of stuff. I had gone from failing out of university, like my first year of university, to graduating top of my class. And it was all because of a book that I read about creativity. And I applied all these different creative thinking techniques to getting jobs, to, landing the girl of my dreams, which is now my wife, to like all these different ways. And so anyway, I started that was my first business, was going to high schools and colleges and teaching them about creativity. So I've never not been an entrepreneur. This was dating back all the way to 2002. So my whole career.
Gosh. I love that, because you just went for it. Like I remember so clearly, I was like you, came from a very academic family. Like that was the path. Like there was no other path. My stepdad is an incredible entrepreneur, but even then it was like he has a factory. Like it just felt very different. It felt like this job, And I remember the first time I heard about an entrepreneur, I was in university and I heard that someone had dropped out of university to start a business. And I remember thinking, what is that? And it excited me and terrified me at the same time. And I remember just being like, there's no way I could ever do that. And I think back to that memory and I'm like, wow, it is scary. But I do think that entrepreneur types have had that moment in their life where it's like, I know I don't fit into the regular mold. Some people figure it out faster than others, like you did, and other people need to kind of go through the 9-to-5 grind to realize they're really not cut out for this. But I love that so much.
But that's the thing, sometimes we may be clear about what we want and we go for it, but other times we may not know at all what we want, but we're clear on what we don't want. So for me, I was really clear, I didn't want to go work in a cubicle. I didn't want to work a 9-to-5. I didn't want somebody telling me how many weeks of vacation I could take. I also didn't want to wear a suit and tie every day. That was an absolute deal breaker for me. So oftentimes people get hung up in waiting, to take that next step because they want crystal clarity around what they do want. But I can say from experience, sometimes if you're just clear about what you don't want, just start there and just start moving in any direction.
Yeah, that's such good advice, because I think people always ask me, they want me to talk about how I knew what I was meant to do. And I'm like, I didn't. I literally just you knew what I didn't want and threw a lot of stuff at the wall. And what a lot of people don't see, how many programs I've recorded that have never seen the light of day, how many websites I've had, how many domains I've purchased, how many
domains.
And that's the thing. It's don't wait until you have that clarity, because the clarity comes through the doing, and the clarity comes through truly testing concepts and surrounding yourself with people who I think can validate your ideas. Because one of the next questions I wanted to ask you, and I'm thinking of a particular story that you've told me before, is how going to live events have really propelled your business forward. And obviously I'm asking that because you're a speaker at Posse Fest and because I met you first at a live event. In fact, almost every single person on stage at Posse Fest I met at a live event. Every business partner, mentor, coach, almost everyone who has propelled my business forward, or at the very least have just said, that's a good idea, you should go after that, I met at an event. And so I wanted to just ask you as a sidebar conversation, how have events really impacted your business?
I think, listen, if you're looking to make progress in any area of your life, especially like in your business, you've got to get to events because that's where you're going to be able to essentially compress decades into days. And this for me is like one of the most important things. I want to compress time. I don't want to have to learn all the things the hard way. I want to learn it quickly, and I want to learn it from people who have done it. So back to my speaking career, like I didn't know how to build a speaking business. I didn't even know this was a thing. Yeah. And at the time I belonged to an organization called CAPS, and at one of our local chapters, they were talking about, different things. And I went up to one of the speakers and I said, look, I want to get to where you are as quickly as possible. Like, what's one of the first things I should do? He said, are you registered for the national conference? I said, no. He said, get there. He said, that will propel you forward faster than you can ever imagine. Now, I'll admit, I was 22 years old. I was just out of university. I'm shoulder deep in student debt. I didn't have like a whole lot of money. And then on top of that, the conference was on the complete opposite side of Canada. It was over in your neck of the woods. It's over in Vancouver. And I'm over on the East Coast. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like that is so much money for the registration, for the flight, all that kind of stuff. And so then I went back to like what I knew best, which was like, if you want to solve any problem, you just have to start asking the right questions. And so for me, it was like, I knew I needed to get there. So I started asking myself, how could I come up with the money to be able to get myself there? Now, in this scenario, I came up with a campaign called Help Stu Be Like You. And I essentially like asked for 5 minutes of time in front of the Toronto chapter. They somehow gave it to me. And I went and I just said, hey, listen, how many of you agree that it would be very valuable for a young speaker like me to get to the national conference? All the hands are in the air. I said, and how many of you at one point or another started your speaking career not knowing anything? They all had their hands in the air. I said, that's where I am. You've all agreed that I need to get out to the national conference, and I'm right at the beginning of my career. And I said, so here's what I'm willing to do. I know that I've got more time than most of you. I'm willing to trade my time for for a financial contribution of your choice. I said, so I'm willing to, write sales letters, write copy. I'm willing to lick envelopes. I'm willing to wipe babies' bums, mow lawns, whatever it takes. I said, for a financial contribution of your choice. Right away, two guys stepped up. One guy's name's Bob Urachuk. He stepped up. He said, I'll pay for your flight. Another guy steps up. He's Yuri Chabursky said, I'll pay for the cost of the conference. Wow. Boom, boom. Just like that. Like everything was covered. And I was flabbergasted. Now, after that, I go to the event. And word had kind of spread about like this, young kid who had done this thing to get out to this conference. And I'll never forget, like I learned so much at this event. Like people who are coming to Posse Fest, they are going to learn so much. And that's what happened to me. Like I got exposed to minds. And I remember like Charlie Tremendous Jones, this great man who's unfortunately no longer with us. But I remember he filled both my head and my heart. Like I remember one of the things he said, still with me today. He was talking about when you're presenting anything. And P.S., you'll see me do this at Posse Fest. But this is what he said. He said, tell him what you're going to tell him, and then tell him what you told him. And that was like his three-part formula. But anyway, like that stayed with me now 20 plus years later. And I met so many incredible people, relationships. I learned so much from mentors. And like I said, I compressed decades into days. That propelled my speaking career forward like nothing, because at that point, like I learned just a few ideas and strategies that helped me like double and triple what I was charging schools. I was making more money as a result from one single idea. And so I encourage people, never underestimate how much you can learn and how much it can propel you forward, because you're just able to compress, as I said, decades into days.
I love that, decades into days. And that's the thing. I feel like when we're looking at events, and to be honest, the same thing goes with any sort of membership or community too, is like we tend to make our decision based on like the content. It's like, who are the speakers and what am I going to learn? And don't get me wrong, that's amazing. And of course, that's important. But fast forward, like when I think now, I've been going to events for 15 years. I couldn't tell you like necessarily what I like exactly learned at that event, but what I can trace it back to is, oh my gosh, I met this person, or I met that referral, or this opened this door, or I took this one strategy that I learned, which turned into a whole other business. And that to me is like the real magic of going to events. And I love that story that you shared. So now I kind of want to know how Stu went from speaking and speaking to schools, and you're at the national conference, to now running the business that you have now. And I know that that's, quite the journey, but you recently wrapped up a launch and you did $5 million, which I think most people, when they hear that, they're just like, I'm sorry, what? Like it's almost inconceivable, but I know that you didn't start there. And so I'd love for you to tell us the story of your first launch.
Well, when we talk about not having crystal clarity about like where you want to go and what you want to do, this is a perfect example. So I went from like speaking at high schools and colleges and quickly realizing schools could only afford so much. I can only speak so many times a year. That was my maximum earning potential.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I want to get beyond that. So I started asking myself questions like, how could I get beyond that? I thought, wait a minute. Like, what if I taught the same principles that I'm teaching to students to business owners? They got more money. It has more upside potential for them. And so that's what I started doing. And then I started to think about like, how else could I package what it is that I know? And I learned from an incredible mentor. Speaking of events, that's where I first met him and I went to an event. He was a speaker. I was like enthralled with what I was learning. I took so many notes and then long story short, I ended up working with him and learning so much. And then through that experience, I was ready to, really ramp up my information business. That's one of the biggest things I learned, how to package what it is that I know, turn it into things like courses and coaching and memberships and so forth. So then I go out on my own, and interestingly enough, I got a phone call, and it was from one of the other speakers that used to speak at his events. And as I said, I was working with him, so I was at his events quite often. Yeah. And he reached out and he said, "So what are you doing now?" And I said, "Well, I'm going out, I'm like starting my own thing, blah, blah, blah." He said, "Have you ever thought about being an affiliate manager?" And I was like, "Affiliate manager?" I said, no, like I didn't even know what the heck it was at the time. And B, like, no, it never crossed my radar. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, look, he said, A, you're very good at speaking. B, you're great with people. And C, you got a great marketing mind. He said, that's like a winning combo. He said, I'm curious if you'd be willing to, be my affiliate manager. So at the time I was just like, sure, let's go for it. Yeah. So I start going down this road. Well, long story short, Alex, we hit it out of the ballpark. Like I was managing his launches, with all of his teams of affiliates. We were doing 7-figure launches before YouTube. Like YouTube started in 2005. Wow. We were doing 7 launches before then. And so quickly word spread. And now I got all kinds of people who are asking if I can manage their affiliate programs. It was incredible. It was an amazing business because now I'm behind the scenes on all of these different launches. I'm getting paid to learn like what's working and what's not on a big scale. It was incredible. So long story short, I quickly realized though that again, I hit a bottleneck because I had grown that business pretty quickly. We were doing multiple 6 figures, like mid 6 figures, but I realized I had just gotten married. Amy and I are thinking about having kids, and that business was highly dependent on me. Yeah. I was the bottleneck. It was very hard to scale. So I quickly realized like, if I want to grow this business, I got to give more time, and I didn't have any more time to give. So I reached out to another mentor. I'm talking about this. He said, you should start a membership. I'm like, what's a membership? He said, well, basically, Stu, a membership allows you to be able to teach once and be able to share it with hundreds, if not thousands of people at a time. So there's no limit in terms of the number of people that you can share it with. And you only have to, produce the content once. I was like, that sounds amazing. So I go down that path, and the software back then was not what it is today. No. And deep in like server settings and HTML access files and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So then I'm moaning and groaning to a friend of mine, Tracy, and he says, well, why don't you just create your own membership platform? And I'm like, dude, like I'm sitting here struggling with the tech, and you're telling me that I should go and build my own site? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. He said, well, look, I've got a developer that works with me. Why don't we team up and we can create something? So we did. And a month later, we had a beta version of our very first software. It was called Wishlist Member, and it worked with WordPress.
Yeah.
And that thing just took off, Alex. And before I knew it, like that first month, we did 5,000, then 13,000, then 21,000 in sales. And it just kept going up and up and up. And before I knew it, we had a 7-figure business on our hands. And I was like, this affiliate management business, like, that's not scalable. I loved it. I learned a lot. Yeah. I'm on to the next chapter. And so then we were growing this software company. And that's where I started to watch and see all these people who are growing these online memberships in crazy markets who are, building these, leveraged businesses. I'm like, this is amazing. So I started to see what works with memberships and what doesn't. And from that point forward, I have been sharing and teaching best practices with memberships where, I've been teaching it now for more than 16 plus years. And so that's how we got to today. And now we have, our new software company, which is membership.io. And we teach our signature program every year. But from that point forward, we've taught tens of thousands of people how to launch, grow, and scale highly successful memberships. So that's the journey to that point.
Amazing. And I think the biggest takeaway that I got from that, and to anyone listening to this, is this idea that it really, you don't have this big aha, oh my God, this is the thing overnight. I mean, your journey went from speaking to then affiliate management to then going, okay. And every time it was oh my God, okay, I'm doing this for a while. Things are great. And then, okay, I'm ready for a pivot. I'm ready for a change. What's next? And that opportunity opened a door to another opportunity, which opened the door to another opportunity. And that's truly what it looks like. I think from the outside looking in, we think, someone just one day woke up and launched a program and then they had a multi-million-dollar business. Like, that's not how it works. And I think like many people watching this who are copywriters, it's sort of similar to your story as an affiliate manager. Like, talk about an invaluable skill set to learn. And I remember you said this to me, Stu. I don't know if you remember saying this to me, but you said copywriting is like the gateway drug to entrepreneurship. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. Because all of you who are learning copywriting, do I think you're going to be freelance copywriters for the entire, span of your entrepreneurial journey? Absolutely not. It is a skill that can build you a very successful business. And then at some point, like most copywriters, you hit this place where you're like, whoa, I've learned a lot. I've been behind the scenes in other businesses. I can see what's working. I've learned so much. Now, what is the next step for me? And that's, I think, such a powerful mindset to have, is to go in with just this curiosity and navigating that journey as you come across it. It's not a one and done, wake up one day, you're good.
Yeah. And to your point, like every step opens a door to the next step. It's like, think of it like chapters. As copywriters, think of it as one chapter leaves a hook that wants us to get into the next chapter. And that's exactly what happens. Like, we've got to continuously have that open mind that, hey, listen, just because I'm going in this direction doesn't mean that this is going to be my direction till the end of time. Yeah. But it is likely going to lead to clarity about what that next thing is. But if you don't take that first step, you're never going to get what the clarity around that next step, or the step after that, or the step after that. Like, there's no way that I could have gone back to 2002 when I graduated. God, I hate saying that. That's so old. But anyway, back to 2002. And there's no way that I could have been like, oh, I'm going to build a membership software company. Like, I had no idea what memberships were. I didn't even couldn't even fathom building a software company because I'm not a developer. Like, those things are not on my radar at that point in time in my life. So yes, one thing leads to another, and we just got to be willing to be able to, take that next right step.
Yeah. And just, say yes and figure it out. Well, I'm excited to talk about launches because at Posse Fest, you're going to be sharing your $5 million launch formula with everyone in attendance, but launches are like this sexy word that a lot of people throw around, and I know that launches can be really freaking stressful. They can make you a lot of money, but there's good, there's bad, and there's ugly. But I'd like for you to talk a little bit about just the impact launches have in your business, especially now that you have the business that you have, and I know you run launches at least a couple a year. Sort of what the impact what the impact of launches has been. And then I want to reverse a little and talk about how to get started if someone's literally launching from scratch.
Well, I have to give credit where credit is due. So the godfather, so to speak, of online launches is Jeff Walker. And in 2005, I was one of his first customers that bought his product launch formula program that taught like his methodology. Now, since then, I have used that methodology. I've made my own tweaks and iterations of it that have served me tremendously well. Like my very first launch of our now, TME program, which stands for the membership experience, was back in 2016. The very first launch of that was a $3.5 million launch. Like, that is mind-boggling. I remember my business partners, who, were still partners today, they had never, ever done an online launch like that before. So like going into it, like they told me that they would be tickled pink with, a $500,000 launch. Like this was a new business that we were going in together. When we ended that with a $3.5 million launch, they were just like blown away because for most people, like most businesses on earth cannot even fathom generating millions of dollars in such a short period of time. Usually that takes months, sometimes even years. So I'm a huge fan of launches because of the massive momentum that it can create. But to your point, you can do launches the wrong way. You can fall flat. You can lose your shirt, investing tons in ads and not paying off. Like there's definitely best practices. And after more than $18 million plus launches, I've learned a thing or two. And so, our best launch was a $9 million launch in 2020. Like we've had incredible launches from 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, very close, as I said, to 8-figure launches. And so there are best practices. And of course, I'm excited to share all of those at Posse Fest, but we can unpack a few of them here if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to ask first, sort of, like we talked about in the beginning, get clear on what you don't want and then do what you do want. What are some common mistakes that you see people making when they're planning a launch? Like, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, oh my God, I really want to do a launch. I think I have a great concept. I think I can do this. Where do I start? And then what are some things they should definitely avoid or mistakes that you've seen?
Well, one big mistake is that people wait way too long before they actually do their launch. And the reason I share this is because there's a natural tendency that we're going to wait until our audience is at a certain size, or wait until we finish creating the product, or wait until like we're emotionally ready, whatever it may be. But I remember in 2015, I was thinking of creating a course teaching everything that I knew about memberships.
Right.
And I kept thinking about it. I was in a transition in my career at this point. I'd sold my first software company. And anyway, I was chatting to Jeff Walker, who's a dear friend. And I said, yeah, I'm thinking of doing this thing. And I'm not sure when I'll launch. He said, how about this, Stu? He said, give me the date of when you're going to launch. I said, I don't know. He said, okay, let me put it to you another way. He said, I cannot wait to support you. I will go all out in being a partner for you, but you've got to give me a date right now. And I was like, August 18th. He's like, perfect. And so right away, I was like, oh man. But the moment that I had that date, now everything became real. Now, all of a sudden, like I went from like this mindset to like, I had a fire underneath me and I had a date that I could work backwards from, and things started happening. So the number one mistake is that people wait way too long until everything's perfect. And what I would say is in most cases, you don't need to actually have the thing completed before you launch it. Like even physical products today, you look at Kickstarter, like Kickstarter is a launch platform. Like people have not created the things that they're selling and yet they're still launching them. And so why do we have this need and this desire to wait until we've got everything created? No, they wait too long. That's number one. Number two is that they don't build up enough excitement beforehand. It's kind of like, surprise, it's for sale. This is my launch. It's available. Buy now. And everyone's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, all we got to do is just look at like big blockbuster movies. Like they don't just all of a sudden now in theaters. No. There's like this runway that builds up excitement, and it keeps getting more and more intense the closer you get to the actual, date of the launch. The same is true when you're launching. One of my rules of thumbs is the longer the runway, the bigger the result. So if you have and put a date out there way in advance, people then circle it, put it on their calendar. Now they're looking forward to it. From a psychology perspective, this works wonders. But if you don't give them the date, you don't give them time, now they can't plan around it. And then you're just hoping that they're going to see it and hoping that they're going to be available. So number one is like, you want to launch way earlier than you probably think. Number two is you want to give yourself a long runway. And then the other thing that I would say is like, realize that your first launch is not going to be your last launch. So back to 2016 when I launched our signature program now. And every year that we've launched that, like our first year was $3.5 million. Our best year was $9 million. We've never had, for the most part, we average around $5 to $7 million a year with that launch. Now, the very first launch that I did, oh gosh, I look back on that and there was so many things that I wanted to do, but I very quickly realized I didn't have the capacity. So I just focused on the big rocks. And this is what I would say to everybody is like, with your first launch of any program or anything, just focus on like the big rocks, knowing that this is version 1 and that you're going to launch again and again and again, and each time you're going to add another little bit to that launch, which gets them bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to build on the momentum. The first one's always going to be the hardest because you're creating everything from scratch. But after that point, you're iterating, you're tweaking, you're dialing things in, you're adding one new component. And so in that first launch, like the big rocks that I focused on were number 1, my launch videos, number 2, my sales letter, and number 3, my webinar. I wanted to nail those 3 things. Those were the 3 big rocks. My email, I gotta admit, like you know me, I love and appreciate good copy. My email copy, I would maybe have given that first launch a C+. Like it was brutal, but I just didn't have the capacity. I had to focus on the big rocks. Yeah. But since then, we just keep tweaking and iterating and adding components, and that's what makes the momentum build and these launches get bigger and bigger. So what I would say is like, number 1, launch before you think you can. Number 2, give yourself a long runway. And number 3, realize that the first launch is not the last launch. You're going to iterate and it's going to get better and better and better. So just focus on the big rocks in that first one.
Yeah, that's such good advice. And when you're going through those mistakes, I'm like, yep. Like I've done all of those things. And I remember like twice I recorded an entire program. And this was before the quality that you could get on like an iPhone even, right? It was like, we actually hired a video team, my friend and we recorded a whole program twice. Neither of those ever saw the light of day. I have them on right here. Maybe one day I'll bring them out from the archive.
Alex, you got to bring them back. We got to bring them out. We want to see it. Give the people what they want, Alex.
Yeah, one's about travel. And like literally, it's like guys, when I say I've started so many businesses that you've never even heard about, like it's true. But I love that you said that because, again, and you were, I don't even like to use the word lucky, but in the beginning with your first launch, you had this incredible, pressure under your butt to be like, hey, Jeff Walker's going to promote my shit. I'm going to get it ready. And you did a $3.5 million launch, which like, let's just say is not normal for a first launch. But the premise is the same. I mean, when I did my first launch, I did not feel ready. I had been posting videos on my YouTube channel, had a really small following, a really small email list that I thought, I was applying regular conversion metrics to this list. And I go, I'm lucky if I get 0.5 people to buy, like not even a whole person, And I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to do it because if I even got 3 people in this program, I'll figure it out. And so I didn't pre-create the program. I wrote an epic sales page, which of course, so many people in the posse know how to do. And I launched it and I got 44 people in that first launch. And I hadn't a single video created. It was like, join me on Zoom and let's go. And now that has become my signature course, the Launchpad, and we're going into season 6 now. So, I mean, you got to take messy action and like, my season oneers, they still love that they're season oneers because they're like, man, remember I would record my little videos like on my webcam, bad lighting, like it was terrible. Like, you got to start somewhere.
When you look back on like where it all started, like my first TME, I was joking with our team because we didn't have a team. Like this was brand spanking new. So like the video, like if you see the raw recordings, it's me like this, and then I do my thing, and then you'd see me like lean into the camera to like pause it. And then you'd see me come pause it again, and I'm coming back, and I'd 1, 2, 3, and then boom, I'd go into the next lesson. Like it was super cheesemo, but that's kind of where we all start, right?
Yeah.
Like I think of people in our community, to me, you can launch anything if you've got an audience of 200 or more. And I'm not talking about 200,000. I'm talking about 200 people, 200 people or more, whether that's on an email list, whether that's on socials like Instagram, YouTube, subscribers, it could be podcast. If you got 200 people or more, you can launch, because that's more than enough people to be able to get that first group in. And the thing is like that first group of customers and buyers, they are going to be evangelists. Like totally. They're your hardcore people. And that creates confidence. It creates momentum. Like I think of Rob recently in our community. So obviously, we focus on helping people launch memberships. He didn't have a big audience. He had 360 something people in his audience, piano players. He does a launch for his membership. Now, it's not like a $3.5 million launch, but he ends up welcoming 55 new members into his membership. That generates for him now close to $5,000 a month in recurring revenue. Like that is like, that's like crazy momentum. Listen, that's a mortgage payment. Can we just put like things in perspective? That's probably a mortgage payment, a car payment combined. Like imagine having that pressure gone because he took action. He didn't have the whole membership created. He did a founding member launch. That's what we call it. It was that first launch. And now he's got $5,000 of recurring revenue. Or I think about Daniel. Daniel in our community is in a total other end of the spectrum. He helps full service estimation businesses. Like I don't even know what that is. It's like I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is, but what I do know is that the clients he's looking for are willing to pay a lot of money per month. So he doesn't have a gigantic audience or a gigantic list. But get this, he just did a launch. He welcomed 10 members. And you might be thinking, 10 members. Is it really worth it to launch a membership with just 10 members? In his case, yes, because those 10 members translate into $38,500 a month. Time out. That means each client is worth $3,800 a month. So he doesn't have a big audience, but what he did was he made the best with what he had. And in his case, his audience are willing to pay a lot of money, for his help and services. So I share that with you because I think we get wrapped up in thinking that I'll do it when my audience is big enough or when this is. Listen, you don't need to have those whens. Just get going, because what I would encourage everybody to think about is like initially just think of the first launch as an experiment. Like Ryan Levesque taught me that, and it's a great mindset shift, because if you think of it as an experiment, it just relieves the pressure that you got to get all the things right. It has to be perfect. It's just an experiment. But then when it's an experiment, now it allows you to get going, and that's what's going to lead to now all the season. Think of all the seasons that you've done now since that season one. Yeah. It's amazing, right? So you just got to get going. That's the most important piece.
I love that you said the experiment thing, because I say that all the time. I think people tend to have this idea that, oh, Alex is a great marketer, Stu's a great marketer. That must mean they always know what's gonna work and what doesn't. And when people ask me marketing questions, I'm always like, try it. Like, see what happens. And they're like, well, I can tell you what I think. I can tell you based on best practices, but marketing is one big experiment. And so
huge experiment.
I want to talk about memberships here in just a second, but I think the one thing I'd really love you to touch on is when it comes to launches, like what are some of the key things that for sure you must have? And then what are some of the things that are nice to have? And the reason why I'm asking this is when I first did my first launch ever, I sent emails to a sales page that is it. I didn't have a webinar. I didn't have, a Jeff Walker style product launch formula with all the videos. I literally was like, I'm a copywriter. I know how to write a sales page. I'm going to do that. And literally that's all I did until, this is embarrassing to say, until I joined your mastermind, like literally a year ago. All I did was send emails to a sales page, and it worked. But now I'm learning all of these like cool new things from being in your mastermind, where I'm like, oh, I could do a webinar. I could do like a coaching week, or, I learned that from Sarah Williams. I do my version of that called Posse Week now. And I'm learning so much, but I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I almost didn't know those things when I was getting started, because I think it would have really overwhelmed me. And like, I started so simple. And so if you could just share a couple of things with the Posse on like, here's the must-haves to start. And then, what comes after that? Like, what are a few things that you do with every launch? And then what are a few things that you can innovate on later?
I just want to say that there are many different ways to launch. There's not one single right way to launch, because different people have different strengths. And, some people watching and listening, they may be like, I love watching your YouTube channel, Alex, but video is not my thing.
Right.
And so then they may shut off thinking, oh, the only way to launch is with video. No, it's not. Or somebody might say like, I could never go live. Live? Oh my gosh, I could never go live. Like the pressure of that, no, I would never go live. And they may like be, shutting off. And I'm saying to them, like, you don't have to go live. Like, you don't have to produce videos. You don't have to go live. You don't even have to write copy if you don't like writing copy. Now, I know that's not your audience, but I'm just saying, like, there are many different ways to launch. And what I want you to realize is kind of like a buffet, and of all these different like launch ideas and strategies and tactics. And what we want to do is we want to take a step back, and we want to like, pull a few of the things that fit our style, right? And then you start orchestrating and putting those things together. That becomes your base of which you then build. So listen, I've got introverts in my audience. I've got extroverts in my audience. I got people who are very techie. I got people who are complete opposite of techie, right? And so there's a mix of everybody, and there's strategies for everyone. Like I think of, Nancy in our audience. Okay. So Nancy, she is not very technical at all, like hates tech. So for her, like she gets a little, when she's like thinking about like, doing launches or memberships or whatever, like she just asked herself a really powerful question. Like, what is the most simple way that I could launch for me? So again, my world is memberships. So she was launching a membership. So for her, like even the tech behind a membership freaked her out. So she just kept it super simple. She launched with, she delivered all the deliverables for the membership via email. And then she had a Facebook group. That was it. She just kept it super simple. And she did that for 6 years, welcomed more than 600 paying members before she ever created a members area. So I just share this because like we got all twisted up. Back to your original question about launches. Here's what I would say. You, number one, want to pick a date. The date is the most important thing, and you want to start talking about it, and you want to talk about it all the time. So you might say something like, let's just say that my date was in April. I'll just pick a date, April 17th. That's my daughter's birthday. I would say, like, if I was being interviewed like this, I would say, April 17th, mark it down, tell everybody you know.
Right.
And I'd actually give like a funny little wing, like mark it down, tell everybody you know. And that was like I always say that once we have our launch day, and I start talking about that months in advance. So don't assume that people are going to A, hear you the first time you say it, and B, remember. So you want to say it, and you want to say it over and over and over again. So pick the date. That's the most important bit. Second thing we talked about is you want to give yourself a runway. I like having more time. So the shortest runway I would ever have is probably about a month. The longest runway I would have is usually about 4 months. So I usually have like a 4-month runway where I'm building up to the date that I want everybody paying attention. Now, on that date that everyone's paying attention, that might be the date that your cart goes live. It might be the date that you do a webinar. It might be the start of a coaching week. It's the date that you want everybody's attention, and it's the beginning of whatever your launch may be. The final thing that I would say about launches that are really important is that you got to then have a deadline. If you don't have a deadline by which people need to buy in order to get the thing, then people will say, ooh, this is nice. I'll save this for later. And later never comes. And so the deadline is the most important bit. Now, the deadline, you want to talk about it, and there needs to be a consequence, so to speak, of people not buying before that deadline. I'll give you a real world example. One night I'm lying in bed with Amy, and it was like late. It was like 11:30 something at night, and I was on my phone, and she's like, "Why are you on your phone?" And because I never am looking at my phone when we're going to bed. That's romantic time. But anyways, I was on my phone, and she says, "Why are you on your phone?" And I'm like, "Well, there's this like, you know, Indiegogo thing that's like gonna end, and I've been thinking about getting it." She's like, "What is it?" And it was an electric bike, and I said, we should get 2 of them, because like one for you, one for me, we go on the trails. And she's like, okay. And so we ended up buying. Now that was several $1,000s. I wouldn't have bought that bike if it weren't for the fact that that bike was going to go up in price significantly by the deadline. So usually deadlines, either the price is going to go up, the thing is not available anymore, the bonuses disappeared. Like there's a reason for people to buy before that date. So you want to have a start date, you want to have an end date. What you do in between is really important too. Like another fundamental rule of thumb is when it comes to selling anything, the more questions you answer, the more objections you resolve. So I make myself available for long periods of time to answer as many questions as I possibly can, because I know that if somebody has a lingering question, even if it's something simple, that lingering question is going to be the sticking point that will prevent them from buying. So let's retrace. Number 1, you want to have a date. Number 2, you want to have a runway leading up to that date. Number 3, you want to make sure you have a deadline to when the promotion ends. And number 4 is you want to answer as many questions and resolve as many objections as possible during that open and close cart dates. If you do that, there's a variety of different ways you can do it. You can answer questions via video, webinar, text, email, chat, all kinds of things. You can do live Q&As. There's tons of ways to do it. There's that buffet of launch strategies. You just pick the few that work, and then you build from there.
Yeah, that's so good. And you're already making me think like, oh gosh, maybe my runway isn't long. I'm like already, oh my God, I need to do better at that. But it's so true. Everything you said, building the anticipation, letting people know, getting them to put it in their calendar, giving them a reason to act. I mean, we talk about the power of scarcity all the time, and then making yourself available, which is something that has been a game changer for me, doing office hours, doing Q&A calls, member spotlights where I interview some of our previous customers and then open the floor to questions. There's so many different ways to do that. I love that so much. And now I want to quickly talk a little bit about the power of memberships, because I'm telling you, when I met you, I didn't really have a membership. I have my high level Rain Mastermind, which is a membership, but not a traditional membership in the sense that you teach it. And that has been an absolute game changer in my business. We did our first launch, our founding member launch, as you call it, in April of this year. Brought in almost 400 new members into Spark, my membership. And I'll tell you, I had all the same resistance that so many of you are probably thinking about when you think of launching memberships. In fact, I was on a call with my mastermind members this morning, and I told one of my mastermind members, Kelsey, to start a membership. And immediately she's like, it just feels like it's going to be so much work, and it's like ongoing and it's never ending. And I kind of gave her the story of my membership and saying, look, having this number of paying members and knowing that that's your core focus to create a scalable and predictable business model, to me, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been doing this, like sort of what I call popcorn marketing, where it's all like, create something, launch it, blah, dies. Create something, launch it, blah, dies. And like, no wonder I was so freaking exhausted. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but when it comes to memberships, why are they so powerful, and how can they be done in like just such a simple way that really anyone listening to this, if they're thinking about launching a membership, can get started?
A membership is like the gift that keeps on giving. So you put all this energy and effort into a launch. And just like you said, the old business model is you do that launch and then whoop, It's great in the moment, but after that, it's like, well, if you want to do anything again, you're going to have to, build up the momentum, do everything again to make some more money the next month. And that's why launching a membership is so great, because it is the gift that keeps on giving. You start each month with the momentum that you ended the last month with. And that is just a huge pressure release for us as entrepreneurs. Like I think back to 2020, Alex, and that was a really challenging time for a lot of entrepreneurs. There was a lot of fear and uncertainty in the market, when the world came to a crashing halt. Like, I got friends who are in, quote, traditional businesses. A friend of mine, he owns multiple restaurants. And like, when COVID hit, and now all of a sudden people aren't even allowed into his restaurant. Like, can you imagine the pen? His rent doesn't pause, his bills don't pause, but the revenue did. Like, I can't even imagine the pressure that a lot of traditional businesses face. Now, in the online membership world, it was totally different. And there was a woman in our community, her name's Casey Hope. She has a traditional art studio. People come into her art studio, they learn how to paint, etc. She also joined our community and started a calligraphy membership. She sends me a message in April, and she said, Stu, this is like the hardest, or would have been the hardest period of my entrepreneurial career if I didn't have a membership. She said, we just closed the doors on our art studio, and normally I would have been full of fear. She said, but I'm not, because I know that I can continue to pay my staff, I can continue to pay the bills, and I can continue to pay myself thanks to her calligraphy membership. And then she had like another epiphany moment during COVID, which was like, wait a minute, when people are coming into the studio, these kids are coming in and I'm teaching the kids art. Why don't I start another membership? And I teach kids art online. And so she launched that. She ended up welcoming over 400 members, just like yourself, in that short period of time. And so now she's got 2 memberships. And so I just say this because, like, I'm a firm believer in memberships, because I'm a firm believer in helping entrepreneurs have the most financial stability in their lives. And that will come when you've got recurring revenue in your business. So when it comes to launching in the most simple way, it kind of goes back to some of the things that we talked about earlier. I encourage people to do a founding member launch. Now, what that is in theory is that you're going to launch the membership before you've created anything. Yeah. Now, I know in saying that, some people are going to get a little bit squirrely, and the fear monsters and the gremlins are going to start coming up and be like, wait a minute, like, Stu, how can I launch anything? Why did anybody buy anything if I don't have anything to show them? Yada, yada, yada. What am I going to do if I get customers? Anyways, here's what I want you to know. You can do this by sending one simple message to wherever you consistently communicate with your audience. You might communicate with them via email. Great. You're going to send it there. You might communicate with them via your YouTube channel. Great. You're going to create a video and you're going to say this. Yeah. It might be on Instagram. Great. You're going to do it there. Wherever your audience is, 200 people or more, you can do this. And here's what you're going to do. I'm going to give you 5 parts to this founding member launch. I'm going to tell you exactly what the founding member launch is right now. Number 1, the first part of the message is going to be about the idea. And what you're going to say is something like, I was listening to 2 beautifully dressed in pink Canadians who were talking about this idea of starting a membership and a community. And it got me thinking about you. And it got me thinking about, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to bring together a people who are committed and dedicated to XYZ outcome, where we're there to support each other and help each other, and be able to, be on this journey of getting XYZ outcome together. Now, this is just an idea. That's the first part. So you're just talking about what the idea is and where it came from. Second part of the message is then you're going to cast the vision. So then you might say, now, right now, this is just an idea, so I haven't created anything. But here's where I see this going. I see it becoming a place that does X and Y. I see bringing in people that would be able to help us do this and that. I see resources and this and this and that and templates, blah, 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 whatever it is. You cast the vision for where you see this going. Third part is then you're going to invite people to come and join you as a founding member. And in this scenario, you would say, now, I don't know if anything about what I'm saying resonates, but if it does, I'd love to invite you to join me as a founding member. Now, admittedly, I don't have anything created yet, but by joining as a founding member, you're going to get in on the ground floor. Number one, you're going to get the absolute best pricing, because down the road, I'm 100% going to raise the price on this, but your price will be X, and it'll be X for as long as you remain a member in good standing. Then I also want your feedback, because as I said, I haven't created anything yet. So the most important thing is, like, I want your input and your insights as we create this together. So that's the third part, is the invite. The fourth part then is the call to action. So this is where you're going to ask people to take some kind of an action. Now, my favorite is I don't send people to a sales letter, even though I'm a big fan of sales copy, because a sales letter takes time to go and create.
You have to write it.
You have to write it, right? Exactly. So what I typically say is, like, if this sounds interesting, just send me a direct message. Amazing. Just send me a direct message. Just send me a direct message to say I'm interested. And the reason I do that, and I don't say, like, hey, comment below. Yes, because what if nobody says yes? Yeah, then I've got, like, public embarrassment. I don't want that egg on my face.
And all your friends go comment on
exactly. Build some social proof here, please. Like, no. So I just say, send me a direct message, because then if one person says yes or 1,000, nobody knows, right? And I'm still in total control as to what my next move is. Yeah. So then once you get people saying, yes, I'm interested, that brings us to step number 5, which is the follow-up. Now, this is actually where a lot of people make a mistake, because a lot of people get the warm and fuzzy feelings like, oh my gosh, I had 302 people who said that they were interested. And then my next question is, and how many of them bought? Well, I haven't sent them the payment link yet. I'm like, for goodness sake, like, send them a link. So
get that
again,
money, honey.
Exactly. I'm gonna use that. Give me the money, honey. Okay, so here's where you just got to go and create a simple PayPal checkout link. Yeah. You don't need to go again and create a fancy sales page. You don't need to go and create a sales video. You don't even need to create a fancy checkout page. You just need to send people a PayPal link. Now, this whole thing that I've just talked about, everybody watching and listening right here today could go and do this by the end of the day.
Yeah, seriously.
It is so simple. And what it does is, once you put the idea out there, you are able to gauge interest right away. Yeah. And let's say that nobody responds with interest. Does that make you a total failure? No. What have we done in that situation? It goes back to a great quote from Nelson Mandela. He said, I never lose. I either win or I learn. So, best case scenario, we get a bunch of people that say yes, they're interested. Worst case scenario, we learn about what the market is not responding to, and we've learned this before we went and spent a whole bunch of time, energy, and money in creating anything. So this founding member launch, number 1, starts with you talking about what the idea is and where it came from. Number 2, casting the vision for where you see it going. Number 3, inviting people to come join you as a founding member, because they're going to get founding member pricing for as long as they stay a member. Yeah. Number 4 is the call to action. I like, send me a DM. And number 5, the follow-up. Send people a checkout link so that you can begin accepting money and really gauging interest. And here's what's amazing about this. This simple process can 100% be done by the end of the day. Yeah. And it can, because it can be done by the end of the day, you can start building momentum way before. Because the real secret of a founding member launch, Alex, it's great when, like Rob, who just recently did his and generated just nearly $5,000 a month. That's amazing. But I actually am more interested in the founding members who join and working with them and discovering how I can best serve them, and building case studies and stories that in my next launch are going to make my launch way more powerful, convert at way higher rates. So don't think of your founding members as this sole source of income. Yes, it will become that, but think of it as that first group that you get to learn from to make the next launch and the next launch and the next launch after that even more powerful.
And also, your founding members are so stoked to be your founding members. Like, they want to be your guinea pigs. They want that direct access to you. I mean, to me, like it's easy to think, oh, I'm asking people for things, and if anyone's uncomfortable selling it, might feel that way. And the reality is, you can help these people. Allow them to really raise their hand and say, yeah, I am willing to give you feedback to be able to learn your process. And when you say simple, Stu, I mean, you can do this by the end of the day. And then when it comes to all the like back end stuff, I mean, honestly, like, I launched my membership. I had a plan and I had a schedule, but I hadn't recorded a single ounce of content yet. You could literally do this through email with a calendar link and a Zoom, whatever, however you want to deliver this content. You talked about your one member who used a Facebook group. Amazing. Again, don't let the tech freak you out, because there's so many solutions for that. And the best one, if I do say so myself, is membership.io, which Stu just happens to be the founder of. I mean, but I have both of my memberships, Spark and Rain, built on the membership.io platform. And I moved to membership.io from another platform because what I found was, as my membership started to grow and I started to get more and more content, I realized that the experience wasn't that great for my members, because it was hard to navigate. It was hard to understand like where to go to get what you needed. And I couldn't personalize the journey. And Stu, I mean, like, just like you created Wishlist back in the day, you went and created the most epic solution that I love. And I am excited to share that with the posse. And if you want to say anything about it, we'll put a link to it below so everyone can go check it out.
Well, I appreciate that. And that means the world, Alex. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, we work with tens of thousands of membership site owners every single day. And we see where people get tripped up. We see what's working, what's not working. And here's the future of memberships. The future of memberships really boils down to a few key things. Number one, you hit the nail on the head, which is search. Because if people can't find the things that they're looking for, they're gone. Like, gone are the days when you just send people into a big old library of stuff and you're like, there's tons of value in there. Yeah, but here's what's happening. People come in and then they're like a deer in headlights. They're like, and then they're gone and you've lost them. And that's a total waste of that opportunity. So search is a really big thing. And I don't know anybody else who has placed as high of an importance on that than us, because we want it so that as the library grows, it becomes easier and easier for people to find more and more relevant content for them. So that's the first big area. One of the big steps when it comes to future memberships is search. Number two is personalization. So we experience this day in and day out. You log into Netflix and I guarantee that, Alex, we're going to see a different set of shows in your Netflix account than you'd see in mine.
He doesn't want to see mine. I'm like, I watch all that trash TV that like I'm embarrassed to tell people about.
So, but that's my point. Like, we're going to have a totally different experience, even though it's the same product, right? Because Netflix is personalizing the experience based on what we like, what we watch, what we don't like. And so because of that, they're showing us different shows, different options. And we experience this every day, whether it's Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, like the big companies are doing this. And now with membership.io, I'm a little bit biased, but now we can do the same thing, because not all members are created equal. And here's an example. You may have somebody who comes into your membership that's in the beginning stages.
Right.
You may have somebody that comes in that's in the much more advanced. If we give them the exact same experience, the beginner is going to feel overwhelmed if they see advanced content. The advanced person is going to feel underwhelmed if they see basic content, and they're both going to leave. So in creating a one-size-fits-all experience, we end up alienating massive chunks of our audience. But if the beginner comes in and sees beginner content, they're going to feel at home. If the advanced person comes in and sees advanced content, they're going to feel this is exactly what I was looking for. And now we've created an experience that makes both of them feel like this is the membership that was tailor-made for them. And in theory, it was. So search, personalization, and the third key is automation. And what I mean by that is this is the behind the scenes stuff. Like as membership site owners, we don't want to be spending our time organizing, uploading, transcribing, adding resources and files and this. Oh wait, where is this file? And trying to link it all together. Like that, gone are those days. We want to be able to create content like this. And the moment that we finish with Zoom, we hang up and voila, through the magic of tech, that Zoom recording is already sent to your membership IO account. It's already being transcribed. It's already being added to the members area and being tagged accordingly. And that happens the moment that you finish because of a simple integration. That's the future of memberships, where it's easier for you as a creator to focus on the things that you do best. So yeah, I'm a little bit biased, Alex. I do believe it is the best platform in the world because we live, eat, and breathe memberships. We have our own memberships. Yeah. We help thousands and thousands of people with memberships, and we really focus on creating a platform that serves both your customers and helping them consume and engage with your content. And if they do that, then they're going to stay longer, you're going to make more money, and then at the same time making your life as a membership site owner easier by streamlining and automating so many of the mundane processes. So I'm a little bit biased, but I do love membership.io.
I love it too. I love it too. Thank you for creating it. And I mean, it goes to show a thing or two about memberships, and why not use a membership platform from someone who's literally done it and has so many students who have done it. So thank you. We'll link to that below if you guys want to check it out. And of course, you will see Stu on stage at Posse Fest Live. It is coming up so freaking quickly. I literally get just nervous and excited every time I even think about it. It's going to be so fun. We'll drop a link to that below. You can go and grab your ticket. Stu, thank you so freaking much for coming and hanging out. I'm looking at the time. I'm we could literally talk all day. You're so much fun to chat to. And I'll see you next week, my friend. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm super pumped. Alex, thank you for having me. And I just want to encourage everybody, come to Posse Fest. Come to Posse Fest. Listen, number one, Alex is awesome. You know that she is going to create this incredible environment that is full of energy, but also practical and tactical, tips and strategies that you can use right away. And we talked about earlier, all you need to come out of this event is one idea. And I guarantee you'll come out away with it with a heck of a lot more than one that can have a profound impact on your business. So get your butt to Posse Fest. Yes. Let's go, people.
Thanks. Bye, Stu.
See ya.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed that video, make sure to check out the next one from me right here. And you can click right here to get a free gift. Product launches are one of the quickest ways to bring in money in your business. But according to a McKinsey survey, more than 50% of all product launches fail to hit business targets, which begs the question, why is it so freaking difficult to run a successful launch, and how can you improve your chances of success? In this video, I'm going to share with you my step-by-step plan for executing consistently lucrative launches and what I always do 1 to 3 months before to build anticipation and excitement. Keep watching.